British friends have a way with words, and they do have a certain expression. They say, "Bob's your uncle," when they want to convey the simplicity of an action. That English phrase is more than an idiom in my personal experience, because for these past 56 years, Bob has been my uncle. Please indulge me for the next few minutes. For the second time in as many weeks, allow me to offer a remembrance of a loved one now celebrating an eternal homecoming. My Uncle Bob was as American as apple pie because, after all, he was born on the 4th of July. As one who grew a head taller and several pounds heavier than most of my contemporaries, it surprised me to learn that my Uncle Bob was a football star during his high school days. I knew him as a guy with a small, almost wiry frame. But then I saw his picture from his prep playing days, and it's almost as if I were looking at a Clark Kent to Superman transformation, albeit in reverse. There was Uncle Bob, minus his glasses, with a full head of hair and a grin on his face. How can I describe that smile? Well, it was the grin of a guy who loved contact, who was confident and absolutely at home playing guard on the offensive line for High Point High School, as High Point Central was known back then. His junior year, the Bison played in the state championship. His senior year, he played in one of the greatest prep all-star games in the nation, the North Carolina-South Carolina Shrine Bowl. In both contests, there was another who would go on to greater gridiron fame, quarterback Sonny Jurgensen, who helped Wilmington win the state championship, but then was Uncle Bob's teammate on that North Carolina team in the aforementioned Shrine Bowl. Like his nephew years later, he attended college on a football scholarship, and like that same nephew, college football stardom eluded him. But unlike that nephew, Uncle Bob had the good sense and self-discipline to trim almost 70 pounds from his physique once his playing days were through. Family life eventually overtook football for my Uncle Bob. He and my Aunt Susie were blessed with 2 children, both special, but one with special needs. It takes a special type of parent for a special needs child, and my Uncle Bob was that kind of dad, gentle, loving, patient. For most of his working life, Uncle Bob was employed by IBM. I stopped by to see him one day at their huge installation in North Carolina's Research Triangle Park, and I marveled at the ease with which he moved around that massive workplace, as well as the high regard in which he was held by his co-workers. These past several years, Uncle Bob and Aunt Susie lived in the Raleigh suburb of Cary. You may have heard me joke before about Cary's acronym, CARY, Containment Area for Relocated Yankees. Uncle Bob was a relocated North Carolinian, but he never wavered from his rock-ribbed republicanism. Maybe it's because his dad ran an independent grocery store and worked so hard in small business. But Bob, as long as I can remember him talking politics, he was a Republican. He did more than talk. As a kid, I especially remember when he would go out clipboard in hand, canvassing for GOP candidates. And as an adult, I welcomed his support when I entered the fray. More recently, Uncle Bob became an avid Newsmax TV viewer. His satellite service at home kept him connected to a certain nephew on a daily basis. Ironically, Uncle Bob and his older sister, my mother, got sick at about the same time, but neither knew of the other's illness. In death as in life, Mom was first. The day after we laid her to rest, I visited Uncle Bob in his intensive care hospital room. He matter-of-factly mentioned that he had flatlined 3 times the night before my visit, but there was no fear as he recounted those episodes. This past Saturday night, 13 days after my mom's passing, Uncle Bob went to sleep in the hospital room where I had visited him 2 weeks earlier. And when Uncle Bob went to sleep Saturday night, he never woke up. When my cousin emailed me with the news, I responded, "Can you imagine the family reunion going on in heaven right now? R.L. Bob Hall, an uncommon man. Rest in peace, Uncle Bob."